Game number 78, a back-to-back, and an opportunity to bounce back. And the Leafs need it. They need it badly here tonight. The race in the East for first place in the Atlantic Division is far tighter than you would have liked it to be at this point in time. I don't think anybody predicted the Tampa Bay Lightning to go on the heater that they did over like the last month or so. I don't think that anyone anticipated the Florida Panthers to drop off the way that they had, or the Ottawa Senators to start to catch up to them. But there's a lot up for grabs here in the Atlantic Division, specifically involving that first and second spot and who you could potentially play in the first round here if you are the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, even more so important, coming off a regulation loss last night to the Florida Panthers, is the back-to-back game against the Tampa Bay Lightning, of which you've got ahead of you here tonight. So in today's video, we'll dig into why that's important, who the lines are for tonight, some potential changes. Obviously, with the back-to-back and a little bit of travel there, you're not really going to see travel. Let's also put asterisk on that. But you're not really going to see some morning skates and too much information come out. A lot of what you might hear will come out of interviews and press conferences and questions being asked directly to the coaching staff. It's not going to come out of morning skates where you see big line rushes and you get ideas right away of who is and isn't playing. But we'll start to learn some more information throughout the day, and I'll give my opinion on what you have for the lines and what I would have liked to see changed, or what I might anticipate being changed here tonight in this game. We'll also get into our best bet segment presented by Bet365, but let's not waste any time. First, the implications of tonight's game. So, the reason that this one has now become a lot more important, if you go to the East or the Atlantic Division standings, the Maple Leafs still sit atop the Atlantic Division there. Them, the Lightning, and the Panthers have all clinched playoff spots, including the Ottawa Senators, who their owner, Michael Andlauer, will be on the sheet with Jeff Merrick today at 3 p.m. Eastern Time on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. Everyone should check that out. But you've clinched your spots. That's fine. You're in the playoffs. The Leafs are 2 points up on the Tampa Bay Lightning. A loss in regulation here tonight ties the Maple Leafs and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, obviously, they go to tiebreakers, regulation wins, and then it goes to regulation plus overtime wins to determine all of that. But the Maple Leafs are tied in regulation wins with the Tampa Bay Lightning. A regulation win for the Tampa Bay Lightning ties them in points, but it puts Tampa ahead by one win in regulation over the Maple Leafs, therefore putting Tampa in first in the Atlantic Division, which then seeds the Maple Leafs in second, and therefore they would play the Florida Panthers in round one. Now, you'd at least get home ice advantage, but we saw last night against the Panthers exactly why you don't want to play the Panthers at all, let alone in round one. Now, yes, obviously, I am of the belief that if you are going to be the best, you have to beat the best. But you know what? With this Maple Leafs team, apparently that doesn't really matter. And a lot of people in this fan base are still sitting here at this point wanting to just take the easiest route possible. And you know what? Given the history of these guys, I can at least somewhat understand that. So you're trying to narrow things down to go down that path. But yeah, tonight means a lot more. It means a lot when you're talking about these wins and these games, especially when you're going up against teams that are chasing you. This is a 4-point game against the Tampa Bay Lightning tonight. If Tampa wins in reg, this is 2 points taken away from you could have had, and 2 points added to the Lightning. Same thing goes in reverse there. The Leafs win tonight, especially in reg. That's 2 points away from Tampa. That is 2 points to you. A 4-point game against a team that is right on your ass, 2 points behind you with 5 games remaining in the season. So it's a tight one. It's a scary one, but the Maple Leafs need to show up here tonight and show us what they're made of against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Let's get to the lines of what we know, and it's basically what we saw last night, so there's no real changes. There's just one thing I'm going to point out here. So over to dailyfaceoff.com for what we've got for tonight's lineups. You're going to stick with the same first line. Matthew Knies, Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner. You need a lot more from them. You also need a lot more from William Nylander, who was basically ghost last night alongside of the other two guys who I just mentioned on that first line in Marner and Matthews there. JT was good last night. I thought Bobby McMahon brought some energy last night. You need a lot more from Nylander, Marner, and Matthews. I do believe Nylander will bring it tonight yet to be seen about what Matthews and Marner will do in these playoff style of games, because history has proven that, you know what, maybe they're not bad, maybe they don't cost you games, but it's rare, it's few and far between that they show up and just take one over. So we'll see if Matthew Knies can maybe drag them in the fight here tonight. Down to your third line, Lawton, Domi, Yarncroke. I thought Domi looked pretty decent last night. Still not getting what you need out of Scott Lawton. Cal Yarncroke is fine, but he's not a guy who's going to show up and jump out off the page. Steven Lorentz, Pontus Holmberg on your fourth line here. Holmberg, he's a guy who can show up. He's a guy who can make an impact. He's a guy who can be an important player if he's going to be in that fourth line center spot, just from the perspective that he can bring some energy. He can bounce up and down the lineup a little bit. Steven Lorentz has been pretty good. Nick Robertson, to me, is the guy who can show up and provide some offense, and we saw that in the game on Saturday against the Columbus Blue Jackets. If anybody were to come out tonight for any reason, it would be Nick Robertson. Now, I don't think you're going to see that just based on what you've got for injuries and everything right now. We know David Kampf isn't going to be joining this group on this trip at all. Same with Jake McCabe. But Robertson's the one guy that you could probably point to, especially after last night's game, where there's some soft plays. He looked like he was getting pushed around. He was having some bad turnovers, making some ill-advised decisions that you could probably look at and say he could come out. Those are your forward lines for tonight. No changes from last night. Part of that is just injury-wise, you're kind of limited in what you can and can't do, and it's basically the same thing on the back end. A tough night last night for Morgan Rielly. Brandon Carlo, I mean, you know the meme, whatever, the commissioner of the MLB, or it's him on the podium, and then the memes you just throw in, whatever, learn how to, it's basically Morgan Rielly saying to Brandon Carlo, get ready to learn minuses, buddy. Brandon Carlo is being a guy who has avoided minuses for most of his career, and all of a sudden he joins Morgan Rielly, and it's just, you get a minus, you get a minus, you get a minus, because playing with the guy, he's been an absolute pizza factory over the last little while, and he's having a really tough year. He's looking for a bounce back when we get to the playoffs. He's probably a guy who will benefit from that game one coming, because it feels like the regular season just gets dropped and forgotten about, and it's an entirely new year. But you need a lot more from that first pair, and specifically Morgan Rielly, because it feels like if things are going bad, he's just dragging Brandon Carlo into it with him. And Carlo does his best to fight against it and try to stay above water, and Morgan Rielly just grabbing at his ankles, trying to pull his head below surface level. Down to your second unit here, you're going to get OEL and Chris Tanev sticking together. I can't really add too much, like a couple things. One, OEL has done fine in these minutes with Chris Tanev, but we know he's a guy who's going to play in your 5-6, so having that in the back of my mind always just alleviates some pressure. I feel like he's okay if he goes in there. If an injury occurs to someone in the top four, OEL is a good replacement player who can step up and fill those roles. Is he a guy I would love to have in there full-time? No, but part of that is just because I feel like he's just so much more impactful in a bottom pair, in a 5-6, because he's probably playing a little bit above his abilities in a 5-6. Right now, in that 3-4, I think he's fine. You go now to your 5-6. A guy I actually thought was good last night against Florida. He had some moments, like, let's call it what it was, some moments that you go, oof, maybe don't do that, but Simon Benoit looks pretty engaged. He looks pretty active out there. He's physical. He gets in guys' faces. He doesn't back down from anybody. He was joining the rush last night and engaging in the offense. There are times where you sit there and go, you are a defender, get the hell back. But for the most part, I pretty much trust the guy and what he's doing every time he gets out there on the ice. Blocks shots, blocks some big shots, kills penalties. Berube seems to trust him as well here. I thought he looked good. Philippe Myers, effectively just replacement level into that bottom 6. I thought he was fine. Not great, not terrible, but fine. Those are your forward and defensive units. Power plays, you stick with the 5 forward unit. They were abysmal last night against Florida. You gave up shorthanded breakaway. You basically failed to generate chances on net. You failed to generate anything dangerous. You had one dangerous opportunity, and it was Matthew Knies at the side of the net that hit Nylander's skate, hit Knies' skate, and was the closest they had on that power play to anything dangerous being generated at all on their odd man opportunity. it was frustrating. That game last night felt like what we watched in the playoffs last year against the Bruins, or what we watched in the playoffs the year before against the Florida Panthers. So those are your power play units. Those are your forwards and your defense. Before we move on, I just want to remind people that the playoffs are around the corner, and if you are looking to get involved here and you are looking for merch, or you're looking to get coverage of anything and everything that is going on here regarding the Maple Leafs, or you're looking to follow some other teams around as well, make sure to be checking out everything right here on the Leafs Nation 401 YouTube channel, as well as everything that's going on across the Nation Network. And if you want to get these Now We Go t-shirts, brand new Now We Go t-shirts. First time I've worn this. This thing just came in the packaging. Threw this on. We are ready to go for today's show and for tonight's game, because we're trying to get ourselves amped up with the implications on the line here with the Maple Leafs game tonight against the Lightning. You can head on over to nationgear.ca to get your Now We Go merch. Get involved. Join us here on the show. Tweet at us. Show us what it is that you've got, what you've picked up, how you're supporting the Leafs Nation crew. We want to see it all, but make sure to head on over to TheLeafsNation.com for all your coverage. The Leafs Nation 401 right here on YouTube for all your video content, podcasts, live shows, as well as nationgear.ca, so you can get all of your merch for this year's playoff run. All right, now let's head on over to what we've got for our best bet tonight. We lost last night. We are still up on the year. That would be $734 in profit, 7.34 units. We are up on the year, so we'll look to keep that going here tonight. But breaking news coming in from Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win is a barn burner. Every face-off, hat trick, power play, shot on goal, penalty shot, and every suspenseful minute in between is amazing. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365, an official partner of the NHL. Download the Bet365 app today. You must be 19 plus. Ontario only. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, visit connectsontario.ca. All right. Our best bet tonight, we're going to keep it simple. Look, sometimes these opportunities just present themselves right in your lap. We're going to go over to the Bet365 page. We're going to go to tonight's game. We go to the goal scorers market, and then we find ourselves rolling down to a familiar face and someone who seems to be able to get on the board every single time that we play against the Tampa Bay Lightning, and that would be a Matthew Knies anytime goal at plus 350. $50 on this one will profit you $175. We're looking to swing a little bit bigger here tonight on the bigger number, plus 350, but Matthew Knies loves playing Tampa and loves playing in Amalie Arena. If you remember the first time he got in after college hockey, he was thrown right into the mix against the Tampa Bay Lightning. He looked like an absolute weapon right out of the gates. He was making an impact on the game, and he was racking up points, and he's basically done that for the last 2 years since then as well. So Matthew Knies, we're looking to get him to get us back in the positive here tonight. $50 profits you $175 at plus 350 for a Knies anytime goal. Best price in the market as well. That'll do it for today's show, today's game preview. Just quickly noting the goaltending situation that we're going to see tonight. It will be Andrei Vasilevsky for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and as projected, it will be Anthony Stolarz. I mean, it's unconfirmed right now, but there's just zero reason that they would go back-to-back with Joseph Woll in a game like this and an opportunity like this. So will be Anthony Stolarz, as everyone is assuming here tonight. So you're going to get a goaltending duo. You're going to get a big matchup against the Lightning. Let's see what the Maple Leafs can make of this opportunity. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe here. Leafs Nation 401 right here on YouTube, whether it's live content, podcasts, morning show, after dark, we've got it all. And I will be back tonight following tonight's Leafs Lightning game to break it all down after the final buzzer. Thank you guys so much for watching. Look forward to seeing you tonight. Until then, keep believing. For more content just like this, including game previews, post-game live shows, Leafs Morning Take, Monday through Friday with Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill with special guests, as well as instant reaction videos. Make sure to be subscribed here to the Leafs Nation YouTube channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss anything, and drop a like.